Alright, it's time for me to follow up on my video the other day where I was talking about the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and what Donald Trump should do and Republicans should do moving forward. And in that video, I gave a rather measured and tepid response, mainly because I was just immediately responding to the news that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died, and I didn't have time to really think through what all the variables were. And also, I hadn't yet seen how Democrats were responding. And at this point, now that the Democrats have responded and the way that they have responded, as well as also just thinking about the general idea of what's going on, I am no longer just leaning towards Donald Trump needs to put somebody through. He needs to put somebody through immediately. I want to see a new Supreme Court justice by this Friday. Now, I know that's not going to happen, and I'm being a little hyperbolic there, but I think it does need to happen, and for a number of reasons. For one, we don't owe the Democrats anything. Think of everything the Democrats have done since Donald Trump took office, or even before he took office. Spying on his campaign, the railroading of Michael Flynn, the whole Russian collusion hoax that they pulled on America to stymie Trump's presidency for 3 years, the impeachment over Ukraine, where they were trying to impeach him for what Joe Biden did. COVID, locking down the entire country. It's all these Democrat-run areas that are still locked down today. I know that because I live in one of those areas. And let's also not forget how they have run cover for the riots and also have been trying to raise money for bail for rioters. Everything that the Democrats have done, they do not deserve any courtesies. But I saved the best for last, because the best example of why we need to just just pry their jaws open and shove our Supreme Court nominee down their throats is Brett Kavanaugh. They went after Brett Kavanaugh with the most malicious intent I have ever seen in American politics. They were out to destroy a man's life simply because he was nominated by a president who they hated. The Democrats are rabid, feral animals at this point. We do not owe them anything, and we should not kowtow to anything that they want us to do. In fact, the more they beg and scream and squeal and plead and all of that stuff for us not to move forward, the harder we should press forward. Because fuck them. At the end of the day, that's one of the big things that it comes down to. Also, we have to look at it from a standpoint of, you know, the precedent that was set in 2016. And we hear all of these Democrats talking about how the Republicans are hypocrites because they are talking about now pushing through a Republican president, a Supreme Court justice during an election year when we supposedly use that as an excuse not to in 2016 with Merrick Garland. But there are very, very different. It's a very different political landscape than what we were looking at in 2016. And also, they didn't really quite catch the nuances of why we didn't move forward in 2016. It wasn't just because it was an election year. There's plenty of precedent for nominating and confirming Supreme Court nominees during election years. The difference was you had a lame duck president in Obama who was on his way out, could not be reelected for another term, and you had a Senate, you had oppositional Senate control. You had Republicans in control of the Senate. So they could have held a vote, but they would have just voted it down. And one of the big differences now is in 2014, the American people actually chose to flip the Senate red in order to keep a check on the Obama administration in their lame duck years so that they couldn't ram something down our throats like this. And what's also funny is that I think one of the reasons that that might have happened was what the Democrats did in 2013. Now, this is another thing that I think a lot of people will probably forget. But in 2013, there were 3 Washington, D.C. district judges that Obama had appointed that the Democrats were especially fond of ramming down our throats. Now, for the past 40 years, up until 2013, you needed a supermajority in order to confirm a presidential nominee to the judiciary. So you needed 60 votes to pass. And the Democrats under Harry Reid decided to pull what was called the nuclear option, where they changed the rules so that you only needed a simple majority. And they did that to railroad us with these 3 Washington, D.C. Circuit federal judges on the Circuit Court of Appeals. And Mitch McConnell told them, you guys will regret this, and sooner than you think. Well, here we are. And, whoops, sorry, I don't know what's going on with my computer. My Photoshop just sometimes actually just decides to quit on me, and then it just popped up. Sorry about that. So we had, let's see, where was I? In 2013, they decided to go nuclear. They wanted to make it so that you only had to have a simple majority. And McConnell said, this is going to come back and bite you. You are going to regret this, and it's going to happen sooner than later. So at the end of the day, this is a bed the Democrats made for themselves. We must make them lie in it. We must make them lie in the bed they made for themselves. They wanted to change the rules and use all kinds of dirty tactics so that they could push through, so that they could get their political win, so that they could push through these district court judges. So, why should we not play by the rules that they created and push through our judges? Because we have the power. So, in 2014, we voted to give the Senate majority to the Republicans so that they could put a check on this. And I've got a feeling that a lot of that happened because of people looking at what the Democrats did in 2013 and said, we don't want the Democrats to just be able to have a unilateral say in who our next Supreme Court judge is. And so they voted in the Republicans in 2014, and just like Obama himself said, elections have consequences. And so we had the power to do it then. Why would we not do that? The Democrats seem to think that civility means the right always bending over and rolling over and dying for them. That's what the left considers civility. That is not civility. That whenever the Democrats think they're going to lose, all they do is change the rules so that they can win. And I'm going to get to that a little bit more later because we're seeing what they're actually doing on that front now. As you can see on this screen I have pulled up right here, Democrats threaten to pack the court if Republicans vote to replace Ginsburg. But, I wanted to talk about a couple other things before I got into all that. For one, we definitely need to push this through, and we need to make sure that whoever we push through is an absolutist on gun rights. Now, for the longest time, we've had this swing vote. We've always had a 4-4 with a swing vote. And I talked in my video the other day about how I can't stand that because it essentially gives all of the Supreme Court power to one judge. And for the longest time, the Supreme Court has not been taking Second Amendment cases, primarily because they could never trust Kennedy, and now they can't trust John Roberts to side with them on gun laws. So they don't want to take on these cases and then all of a sudden have them rule in the leftist favor constricting gun laws. So we need to make sure that we have a 6-3 majority. Yeah, or as what was it that I was saying the other day, like 5.5 to 3.5. Either way, if we have at least 5, because I don't want to say conservative, but originalist judges that read the letter of the Constitution, we can then go around the country and take all of these cases from this appeals court, just round them all up into the Supreme Court, and we can go ahead and rule in the favor of American liberty. So that's one thing. Now, another thing that Razor Fist said the other day that I thought was really interesting. He was talking about how we need to go ahead, of course we need to go ahead and push this through, and what that's going to lead to is it's going to lead to the left, because of course whenever they're losing they want to change the rules. So it's going to lead to them wanting to constrict the powers of the Supreme Court. And while I think we should certainly ram through some wins before we allow that to happen, I do think we absolutely should. And I think we should appease them on that. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems with the judiciary is that because of leftist activist judges, they have almost worked as a second legislative branch. And it's all the leftist activists legislating from the bench that has allowed that to... leftist activist judges legislating from the bench that has allowed them to do that. And so I think if we can wane the power of the Supreme Court, that would ultimately be a long-term win. As Razorfist said, stacking the court is winning the battle. Neutering the court is winning the war. Sorry. And I think he made a very, very good point there. Now, I do think that we should make sure that we get a few reversals on previous decisions, which is also why I think any judge who is a proponent of stare decisis needs to be automatically not considered for the job. So that leaves, what was her name? The Cuban woman. I forget her name. She was one of the people that they were talking about, but she is a fan of stare decisis. She said she would not go after Roe versus Wade, and that she would typically lean on previous rulings as her basis. I think we have had a lot of unconstitutional Supreme Court rulings because of leftist activist judges that I think need to be overturned. So stare decisis should be an automatic disqualifier for whoever gets nominated next. But yeah, but then once we get a couple wins, I do think that we should go ahead and try to neuter the Supreme Court a little bit so that they cannot. We need to make sure that they're impeached. It goes back to the whole idea also, with the legislative branch and also with lower local and state governments. We need to have some sort of way to hold people accountable for violating their oaths. We have too many oaths of offices that are broken, and there's no reprisal for it. That needs to change. So we need to make sure that our elected leaders follow the oaths that they take coming into office to defend the Constitution. That means if they try to create unconstitutional edicts, they need to be removed from office for it and barred from politics entirely, I think. I think it should almost be a one-strike rule. If you're going to be pushing against the Constitution for how you govern, no, you took an oath to defend the Constitution. You're out. So other ways that it's different now is that other ways that this year is different from 2016. Sorry, I know I'm a little all over the place. I've been there's things popping up kind of threw me off a little bit. Also, I haven't recorded in a few days, so I'm getting back into the swing of it. But the other reasons that it's different this year than 2016 is that, for one, Donald Trump is not a lame duck president. He's only at the end of his first term. And we all know that there's an incumbent advantage, and we know that all the momentum is on Trump's side right now. Also, we still have, in 2018, as a response to how the Democrats treated Kavanaugh, four Democrat senators lost their seats, and we had an even greater power placed in the Republicans in the Senate. So we have the power to push it. The Democrats did not have the power before. So they were talking about, they talk about how the right are being hypocrites, but the left are also being hypocrites. The Republicans, they're not really being hypocrites because it's an entirely different situation and the power dynamics are different. The socio-political landscape is different. But we have the people on the Democrats here, they were all saying, we have a duty to vote on the Supreme Court nominee even if it's in an election year. So nobody's calling them out for going against their words, for flip-flopping, for being hypocrites in their own rights. And the fact is they don't even have the argument about the power structures of the government at the time. So, but another reason why I think we need to pass this through is because they are threatening Republicans if we move forward. We have a certain set of rules in how we govern this country. The Republicans are playing by them. We have the power in the Senate, we have the presidency, so we have the power to nominate who we want, and we also have the power to approve them. And we have that power because the Democrats gave it to us in 2013. We no longer need a supermajority. Thank you, Democrats. Go lick your wounds. You stabbed yourself. You shot yourself in the foot. But they are, they're threatening to do things like pack the court if the Republicans vote on Ginsburg's replacement. And again, this is what they always do. Whenever they're losing, they change the rules. And they're just going to try to keep changing the rules until they can never lose again. It's like when you're a little kid and you're playing a game with your friend and you're beating him, and all of a sudden they say, "Oh no, there's now a new boundary and you stepped outside the boundary." What? No, that's not how we do this. But we also have Chuck Schumer here now saying that nothing is off the table, and the Supreme Court fight could reshape the Senate. First of all, this is an empty threat because everything has been on the table for the entire 4 years of Trump's presidency. They have pulled out every single stop they can to stymie him, and it has failed every single step of the way. So why are we going to sit here and quiver in our boots because Chuck Schumer is saying nothing is off the table? They've already demonstrated that they will do anything and everything, no matter how dirty, in order to get Trump out of office and in order to halt his agenda and his presidency. But it's the rhetoric. It's the rhetoric that they're putting forth. And we even have Nancy Pelosi saying that they're not ruling out impeachment of Trump and Bill Barr over this. First of all, what does Bill Barr have to do with any of this? Nothing. Nothing. But again, they will do any dirty trick they possibly can, so we owe them no courtesies. Now, another reason is the Democrat people, the blue check marks on Twitter, and all of the people that are commenting on this, all the Democrats and the leftists in our society, they are threatening even worse. And we should not rule and make our decisions based out of fear of threats from what is kind of becoming a terrorist party in the Democrats. So we have this here from the Washington Examiner. Over our dead bodies, liberals threaten to burn it all down if GOP replaced Ginsburg before the election day. And we have here former CNN host Reza Aslan joined several other verified Twitter accounts in threatening violence if the Senate Republicans attempt to fill the Supreme Court seat of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He says, over our dead bodies, literally. Now, I think it's funny because these people are making threats of violence against people who are likely much better at violence than them. I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would do that. The right has largely been sitting at home waiting for the election. The left has already been out there committing violence, and we've seen all kinds of videos of them injuring themselves, getting run over the moment they are pushed back against, and they're just not good at this stuff. But the right's going to come out, and you're going to have a lot of ex-military people, ex-law enforcement, and, just backwoods, like backwoods people that have been grown up shooting guns their whole lives. And they really think that they're going to stand a chance against that. So they need to be careful. But as Aslan also tweeted, if they even try to replace RBG, we burn the entire effing thing down. And then we also have from Laura Bassett of the Washington Post and GQ, if McConnell jams someone through, which he will, there will be riots. These are direct threats. They are telling us that if we do not bend to their will, they will go out and cause havoc. Well, we've already seen that a lot of the riots have been squashed, mainly because of what Trump has done. And also with Barr talking about charging these rioters with sedition. We saw that they canceled the White House siege. They were supposed to start on September 17th, a 50-day White House siege. And it was orchestrated by the same people who orchestrated the Occupy Wall Street movement back in, 2011 or whatever. But we don't respond to terrorist threats. We need to show them that you cannot do this to get what you want. We will not negotiate with terrorists. So Beau Willimon, the president of the Writers Guild, told his 162,000 followers that we're shutting this country down if Trump and McConnell try to ram through an appointment before the election. Well, try. And then Director of Communications for the Anti-Violence Project, Eliel Cruz, agreed with Williman's call to shut things down by calling on people to march on Washington and just shut it down ourselves. So he says, if the Democrats don't fight, well, the Democrats are going to fight. They just don't have the power to win. If the Democrats don't fight, the people are going to have to march on Washington and shut it down ourselves. Okay. So, we've already seen that they have gone after protesters occupy Mitch McConnell's Louisville home over plan to fill Supreme Court seat. One arrested. They're already taken to the streets and crying like the little babies that they are to get what they want. Now, one of the things that I talked about in my video the other day was basically that we need to take the temperature of America and kind of see what people are feeling before we move forward. Well, it turns out a solid majority of Americans, including Democrats, want Supreme Court hearings during the election. And so this was from, I think it was a Marist poll, Marquette Law School survey. So in this poll conducted in the days before Ginsburg's death, a substantial majority of respondents of both parties say that if a vacancy occurred during the 2020 election year, the Senate should hold hearings on a nominee, with 67% saying hearings should be held and 32% saying that they should not. That is, more than 2/3 of the country is on board with moving forward and replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. Or not her seat, it is her, it's the seat the now vacant seat that she once sat in. The poll found that 68% of Republicans, 71% of independents, and 63% of Democrats indicated that there should be hearings held if a seat became vacated during a presidential election. So this isn't even a partisan issue, because people on all sides of the political aisle, you got almost 2/3 of Democrats saying, hold the hearing. Let's vote on it. But unfortunately, we have some squishy Republicans, and I am about sick and tired of these two women. Can you guess who I'm talking about? They're Republicans. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. Time and time again, these Republican senators who are nothing more than Democrat plants. They're both pro-choice. These are the same two senators who were, let's see, what's the right way to put this? They were playing the Democrats' games in Kavanaugh. They were also playing the Democrats' games in the impeachment hearings. The voting that we should bring witnesses for the Senate impeachment hearings on Donald Trump, even though we knew it was all just totally bogus. They didn't let Republicans pull anybody in the House. In fact, they did everything behind closed doors. Now you want us to call your witnesses in the Senate? No. It was a total sham. We knew it. Just dismiss it. But of course, Murkowski and Collins were willing to play the Democrat game. They were willing to cede that ground, just like they did with Kavanaugh. These two women from Maine and Alaska need to go. They need to be exiled from Republican politics, cast out, and with a scarlet letter. They are the worst. And so I cannot wait to see, if you live in Maine or Alaska, get rid of these two women. Get them out. Get them gone. They are Democrat plants in the Republican Party. That is what they are. They need to be gone. Now, another funny thing, we have all of these media outlets, and I didn't think to pull one of the articles up before doing this video. I just kind of thought of it now. We have all of these media outlets that are talk about how callous Trump is for ignoring Ruth Bader Ginsburg's dying wish that her seat not be filled until there's a new president. Well, first of all, there is no constitutional clause for dying wishes. Second of all, if you believe that she even said that, then I got a bridge to sell you. I don't even believe it happened. The quote, if you read it directly, it's too on the nose. It's too direct. And also, if she thinks that we should wait, and she also didn't say until after the election. She said until there's a new president. She just didn't want... So, I don't know whether that shows that the Democrats are actually intending on stealing the election and they think it's a foregone conclusion that Biden is going to be the new president. I don't know whether that's symbolic of that or emblematic of that, but either way, I don't buy that story. And also, who cares what her dying wish was? That's not how we run this country. You know, we're going to have a very contested election here. A contested election because of mail-in ballots. Democrats have done everything they could to undermine faith in the electoral process for the 2020 election. So this is guaranteed to be contested, and it's likely going to be weighed in on by the Supreme Court. How are we going to do that with an 8-person Supreme Court that could be split down the middle? It is imperative that we fill this seat. You know, in 2016, that's another difference. Everybody just assumed Hillary Clinton was going to win. Well, she didn't. She didn't. Now, another thing is we don't know what Joe Biden is going to do. Say Joe Biden does win. We have no idea what he's going to do with any Supreme Court vacancies. He has hidden his list of potential nominees from us. And we even have here AOC. AOC saying that Biden releasing a SCOTUS nominee list could risk demoralizing and dividing our party. I think what that means is that she knows the list, and she knows the list is chock full of very far-left activist judges, and they do not want the American people to know that. That is the end goal here. That is the end game. They want to pack the court with leftist judges that will decide the rule, decide the law from the bench as opposed to from the legislature. You know, they're tired of all the opposition they get from Republicans in the legislature. So instead, they're just going to pack the judiciary so that they can write these laws from the judiciary with unelected officials. So, in the end, okay, so we have this quote here. Or she also said, right now it's less about motivating people around a specific individual to be named for the court, and that the Democrats could remain highly motivated by the thought of protecting the vacancy for a new president. I don't think releasing a list of names really adds to that, and in fact, I think it could risk demoralizing and dividing our party. That is because they know that the Democrats are basically in their own civil war. We have the far left and the moderate blue dog Democrats who have basically been silenced by the far left, and she doesn't want to risk furthering that gap because the list is going to have a bunch of far left people on it because we know the far left are the ones who are controlling Joe Biden, not the blue dog Democrats. So in the end, all of this adds up to fill the damn seat and do it now. That's my take. I could be wrong. I don't know. But anyways, guys, if you like this video, please go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when I have new videos coming out, and please share this video. You know, I'm a nobody, so I really need all the shares and word of mouth from people like you who actually enjoy listening to me talk about the issues to share this video, spread the word, and I greatly, greatly appreciate that. Also, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Parler at Ram Thorburn. Especially on my Facebook page, I post a lot of memes, probably about 10 memes a day or every other day. You know, I post memes all the time. So if you like memes, it's a good place to get them. Also, if you're interested in contributing to the channel, I could use some new equipment. There are links to my Subscribestar, Patreon, and PayPal down in the description below. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.